Hello, everybody. Couple days ago, Wednesday to be specific, a stabbing took place in broad daylight in the middle of the Strip, which is Las Vegas Boulevard, in front of Wind Hotel. Um, Gentleman stabbed two people, who must subsequently died, and he injured with his knife six more. At this point, all the information is available to public, so I'm going to try to quickly summarize it and tell the story the way it unfolded from the very beginning, meaning including all the background. So, as we now know, the gentleman who did the stabbing is illegal from Guatemala. He crossed the border via Mexico a long time ago. It was not recently. It was back, I think, in either 2014 or 2015. Definitely before 2016. Which is important because some people are trying to tie certain things to certain administrations. Well, he crossed during Obama administration, so there you go. He lived in California all this time, so quite a few years. As he was illegal, he it's clear that he had all kinds of different jobs, but assumption is he's done them for cash. And obviously, life was not working out greatly for him. He had a wife and more than one child. They said children, so I don't know how many, but there was more than one child. And the reason we know that because in California he had a speeding ticket, he had a DUI charge, and he had a domestic battery charge. So all that kind of paints a picture in terms of that life wasn't great for him. He wasn't a happy person to begin with, I guess, before he came to Vegas, and there were serious issues. He arrived in Vegas literally a day before the stabbing took place because a friend of his, I don't know how good of a friend that person was, but that's according to the suspect himself. So that's from the interview, which, by the way, was made available within 24 hours. The interview with the suspect. So the whole interview, when detective questioned him, made available to all the news sources. If all the information that police gathered from the witnesses was made available. The reason I'm making this very clear is because straight away after this took place, Sheriff did a press conference from the scene. He was on the scene personally, and he did another press conference from the headquarters like a couple hours or 3 hours later. At which point he did not take any. He didn't open Q&A. Well, the reason he didn't because they were still processing the scene, interviewing witnesses, and interviewing the suspect. They had no information to give. Some people try to blame sheriff for hiding something, for claiming there is a cover up. There is nothing to cover up. There was just nothing to say. As soon as information became available, it was made available to general public, definitely to all the journalists and reporters. This is for those who try to start BS on Twitter. You know who you are. All right. So carrying on, the suspect arrived in Las Vegas because friend acquaintances of him supposedly told him he can stay with him in his house. Well, once the guy arrived here, the guy said, "Well, no, you can't stay in my house." So I don't know how solid of an agreement that was. Maybe they were just drinking together, or how sometimes people just say things in passing, like, "Oh yeah, if you're ever in Vegas, stay by, you can stay with me." Well, yeah, we a lot of times people don't mean that. But anyhow, so this guy who arrived, by the way, without his wife and kids, but he had a bag and clothes, he got on the bus and went towards the Strip. I guess he figured, well, I'm in Vegas, might as well see the Strip. Once he arrived onto the Strip, he went to the Fashion Show Mall, which is a nice big mall right across from the Wynn Hotel. And according to the suspect himself, he was asking some people whom he referred to chauffeurs, I guess people who stood by their cars or whatnot, asking them for a free ride to California. With no luck, obviously no one was going to do that. And then he went across the road to Wynn Hotel and talked to the janitor in there, asking about how he can get a job as a janitor at the Wynn. And you can imagine janitor couldn't help him much. Wynn is a part of corporation, as most hotels in Las Vegas are. No hiring takes place on the spot. You need to apply online, go to the HR department, which is never within the hotel. It's usually premises someplace, decidedly someplace else, nowhere near the hotel. Anyhow, so janitor really couldn't help him much, especially seeing how the guy was illegal. And then the guy told the janitor, look, I have some knives that I'd like to sell. Would you like to buy them? Obviously, janitor just tried to get rid of him, said no, and walked away. And then the guy went to the security guard, spoke to him, and in that many words, asked if the security guard would call ICE because he said, the suspect said, he wants ICE to arrest him and ship him back to Guatemala. He said he wants to go back home. So, which is in and on itself indication he was not happy here, things were not working out, and already he clearly was depressed. That much we can gather. At which point, the suspect went out on the sidewalk. So the showgirls, everybody calls them showgirls. They're not in any show. It's just an entertainers who wear the showgirl costumes. They offer people to take photos with them, and they expect tips for that. That's how they make their living. And so, although there is never a set amount, like they never say, oh, but it will cost you that much, tips are expected. It's kind of implied, and people understand that. So he went and asked for a photo, and my guess would be the girls, yeah, it's not their first day doing it. They probably figure, well, he's not going to give us any money, and they politely declined. They're like, oh, no, we're okay. So he put his bag down, opened it up, and unwrapped the knife that he did the stabbing with was actually wrapped in some clothes or in some clothes, I don't know. But it was definitely wrapped. That's from the showgirl who was stabbed. He took it out and he said, oh, hey, I'm a chef. I want to take a photo with you with this knife. At which point, girls got scared and they started backing away from him. And I guess that's when something clicked in his head, meaning, everything became just too much. And I'm sure many of you experienced that same situation when it's everything and suddenly a very little thing gives you a nearly nervous breakdown, meaning you lose it over something seemingly small, but it's not that thing that caused it. It's the whole lot of other things. So, like I said, I guess everything became too much right in that moment. He grabbed the knife and he put it just straight into the heart of the girl that was closest to him. That girl is dead. He killed her. Other girls tried to run away, and he got two of them, and then he just started running down the sidewalk. And what he later told detectives, he was just trying to let the anger out. And he said he was running towards groups of people, trying to stab as many as he could. As he did that, another person who subsequently died, that guy didn't even see him. The guy did not know what was happening. He was walking on the sidewalk in the opposite direction, his back towards all of that. So he didn't even know. Like, he was, 1 minute he was just walking, and next minute this guy came behind him, stabbed him, and the guy died. He got several more people, 6 in total. So he injured 6, he killed 2. Another guy was just sitting on a barrier talking on his cell phone. He saw this guy, the suspect, running, and he didn't even realize the guy had a knife. He thought he had a beer can in his hand. And as the guy was passing him by, again, the guy with the phone thought he just pushed him in the chest. And later, when he saw blood, he realized he actually stabbed him. And then the suspect crossed the street towards the palazzo, threw the knife in the bushes, and that's according to the suspect himself. He said he was hoping that at that point police will kill him. That's his word. So suicide by a cop, that's what he was hoping for. Absolute tragedy, clearly, for everyone involved. But let's be realistic and let's be honest. Let's look at the root cause of all of that. So first of all, this guy was here illegally, and not for a month, not for a year, several years. Again, not to say that every single illegal person is like that, but reality of it is, yes, things need to be done properly. The reason he didn't have many options, quite possibly one of the reasons, is the fact that he was illegal. So he can only get certain menial jobs for cash whenever or wherever he could find them. He did not have an opportunities. And I'm not actually advocating opportunities for illegals. No. And I came in this country, I'm a migrant, first generation myself, and I came here legally. So I have a lot of room to talk. I actually really do. If you do things properly, not the things were easy for me. They weren't. They weren't in the beginning. They weren't for the first 5 years. But at least I had options. I could go and apply for various jobs. And because I was legal, I would be actually considered as a candidate. I could have gone and I already have master's degree from the country I came from, but that's not the point. If I wanted to further my education, I had those options. A lot of options are not available when you're illegal. And when you're illegal, you also hide from authorities, you don't do things that you're supposed to do, and it causes other problems. It's, chain reaction. One thing causes the others. But, well, the fact that he was here, he was illegal. He actually wanted to go back. He just didn't have money to even fly back to Guatemala. That was very obvious. He didn't have money to catch a ride back to California, as a matter of fact. And the fact that he was asking people to, security guard in particular, to call ICE and send him to Guatemala, he was not even mentioning his wife and kids, meaning he just wanted to leave it all behind. That much is very, very obvious at this point. But let's follow up on the situation that actually took place. A lot of people straight away start blaming police, going, where was the police? Well, let's remember, police is law enforcement. They enforce existing laws. They don't make them, they don't put them into effect. It's the legislative body who creates the laws and put them into effect. Police has absolutely nothing to do with it. At best case, they would be asked for opinion, but that's as far as it goes. So, this person, clearly in distress, was talking to custodian, was talking to security guard. One would say, well, why didn't they call the police? The reason they didn't is very likely they knew police wouldn't do much about it. But why? See, that's the big question. They go, oh, what, police doesn't do anything. But why? Let's remember what's been happening for the past few years. People are screaming, defund the police. In fact, right in there was a road being repaired. Las Vegas Boulevard was repaired in May of 2020. And I myself, personally, there was a demonstration against the police in there taking place. And the next day I saw ACAB graffitied all over, right there. So you want to defund the police. All cops are bastards. You want to take the funding away. You make it so people don't even want to be cops anymore. Existing ones are retiring in droves, really. And new ones, people just don't want to even apply because they want to be treated this way. And so we don't have enough of it. But more to the point, all that rhetoric, you tying police's hands. How so? Well, imagine this. Imagine, like, say, okay, custodian called the police or security guard did, and police starts questioning this person. Of course, they're going to ask for his ID. That's a standard procedure. Well, imagine somebody, because lots of people, well, have nothing to do, and somebody is recording it on the phone and putting on social media going, look at these cops. They have nothing better to do. This poor guy just walking around looking at the strip, and because he's Hispanic, they racially profiling, they stopped him and they questioning him and they searching him because they very likely, depending on what he said, the minute they realized he was illegal, they probably would have searched him. Well, if they did that, they would have found the knives. Best case scenario, they would at least have confiscated the knives. And again, they would be screaming, oh, but the knives were wrapped and they were in the bag and the bag was zipped and he presented no danger. Let us remember what happened. 2 people are dead and 6 are injured. And there is absolutely no guarantee that any given person is not similar to this suspect. Now, that's why police comes into place, because they are trained. They don't stop just every single citizen. They stop people when they sense that something is out of place. They have reason. Yes, they don't get it 100% of the time. They don't get it right. Sometimes they make mistakes, but more often than not, tragedies like this can be prevented with preventive police work, for which we need enough police, and we need to give them enough discretionary power. Give them more training. If you feel they're not trained enough, give them more training. And yes, profiling is absolutely needed, especially in public places like Las Vegas Boulevard and other public places. That's to protect the public. And we clearly see from what had happened, it could have gone differently. It really could have. And yes, once they arrested him, yeah, ICE would have been probably contacted and he probably would have been deported. But remember, in his particular case, that's what he actually wanted. That actually what he was asking for, except police never got to be there and never got to talk to him and never got to arrest him before he went on that stabbing spree. So liberal democratic policies, that's what I blame squarely in on their shoulders. This one is, it really is. So every time someone goes and screams about defunding the police, about ACAB and various other things, well, you need to see at least 2 steps ahead. And I'm certainly not advocating police standing, every 3 feet and asking for the papers of every single person who passes by. Again, we need to find a happy middle. And happy middle, yes, in the profiling and in the discretion, enough discretion given to police to trust their training, to simply talk to the person and, yes, check the ID. And I can tell you, a lot of people say things, but when it comes to them personally, all of a sudden they get outraged. I never get outraged. If I get stopped by a cop and the cop goes, hey, show me your ID, by all means, ID is on me. I have nothing to hide. Why should I be outraged at that? Why? And if, for whatever reason, if I act, in fact, it happened to me long time ago in New Zealand, actually. People talk about New Zealand like it's some great, awesome country. I mean, New Zealand is okay, but I lived there for 10 years. I actually have New Zealand citizenship. Yeah, it happened to me. I was driving in a residential neighborhood, and I was looking for address. I never been in that neighborhood before, so I was driving really slowly, like slower than the speed limit, and it was kind of dark already, and I wear glasses. I don't see great in the dark, so I was trying to figure out what's going on. And boop, whoop, whoop, behind me a cop, and they wanted to see my ID. And he was asking, he goes, hey, where are you going? What's up? And I told him, he goes, oh, okay. He goes, look, the reason I pulled you over is because you were kind of, it looks suspicious to me. You were driving kind of slowly, like looking at the places, driving slowly. And probably I moved just tiny little bit just because I was looking. I go, yeah, look, I'm looking for this address. This is somebody that I need to meet in there, and I just never been here before. He goes, oh, yeah, that's all right. Yeah, go ahead. And that was the end of that. I didn't get upset. I didn't get mad. I didn't get arrested either because nothing was happening. I was able to clearly explain what's happening. I presented my ID, and that was the end of conversation. There is nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Again, this tragedy that happened on Las Vegas Strip Wednesday, it could have been prevented. It really, really could have. It could have been prevented at the route. I'm in California on the border. But even past that, it could have been prevented here if we just trust our police a little more and let them to actually protect us. Thank you so much, and everybody have a great day.